everyone. I'm Jonghan Yu from Jonghan TV on the YouTube channel. Today, I'm gonna talk about the loss ratio versus pure premium. The reason why I'm recording this short video is that in Korean industry, they focus too much on the loss ratio. And you know what the loss ratio is. And probably the aim is to project the future cash outflow, namely claim outgo based on loss ratio. You multiply the loss ratio upon the earned premium. And I would like to point out that's not the story in IFRS 17 and why it is wrong, and you have to be very careful when you produce one of the famous index loss ratio. So it's going to be very brief, and I just want to stress that before I going into the actuarial modeling for the validation. Okay, let's start with that. So the title is IFRS 17 loss ratio versus pure premium. Yeah, pure premium, I'm going to define it later on. And I took this exhibit from the rainmaking, from the Casual Actuarial Society. They published this booklet for the reading material for exam 5. There is a simple example of loss ratio indicated rate change formula. So to change the rate in the indication of rate change, we use the loss ratio methodology. And this is just a, like numerical example, but when you look at this part is PC is a, premium at current rate level, and L is a losses, so ultimate loss, right? Then projected ultimate loss, and this is the loss adjustment expense ratio. And it includes not only allocated loss adjustment expense and the unallocated loss adjustment expense as well. That would be 65%. So I just want to point out that when it says projected ultimate, meaning that projected means trending up to the future average accident date. And I'm gonna, show the picture later on in more detail. Ultimate means developing. That's what we have already known. So there are two adjustments there to come up with the loss ratio. And actually, this is the, very briefly, probably everybody knows that. And our future indicated rate would be, like we come up with the adjustment factor against the current rate. So the A adjustment factor would be, like experience loss ratio over target loss ratio. What is the experience loss ratio is we usually get the top one is the projected, trended, developed loss. Projected and developed is like, like repeated expression, but you can think of it as an ultimate. Over E is an earned exposure times on-level premium, right here. Not the same as this one. That is the experience loss ratio. And I'm going to show like how we can come up with the experience loss ratio later on. And that is over target loss ratio or permissible loss ratio. That is 1 minus V minus Q over 1 plus G. And VQ is like this and G is like this. But Instead, we normally use permissible loss ratio. There are two different kinds, variable and total permissible. That's just the difference is just, like the fixed expense or varied expense and that kind of thing. And virtually we can get the permissible loss ratios from the balance sheet. And that's what the loss ratio is doing. And also, I just want to point out the very famous term overlap fallacy. It has been probably more than, like 5 decades, but here is clearly says that. And when we use, let's say, as accident year 1998, this is the experience trade, the period, right? And then we usually get the average accident date. Right now, we can get the, like, let's say, empirical distribution of accident date for this period. We can get the, like, better view, but this is a long time ago, so we just took the, midpoint. Starting from there, and then here exposure period means that my new premium, the future premium will be effective probably here January 1st, 1999, and that is a 1 year contract, and I'm gonna use it for 1 year. It's meaning that the let's say for example the like last contract that was written, let's say December 31st, year 2000, will be effective until the next year, December 31st. Oh, sorry. Here, uh, here January 1st, and then probably June 30th, any contract written in that date is going to be 1 year effective. So when you talk about the future claims that will occur, and it's going to occur during the contract 1 year, so it's going to be expand through 2 years. So we just take the midpoint, and that's the exposure period, midpoint. So when we trend the experience losses up to the whenever, like the exposure period and midpoint, we trend up to there. And when it all the claims that occurred, let's say the mid average accident date in 1998, and that had its own development period. And when it says the future premium will occur in the future expected average accident date, and this is just the further development to the ultimate. So, when you say, why are you applying the adjustment, trending, and developing at the same time? It looks like, it's overlapped, but truly it's not. So that's a very famous one. And also, I took it from the Raymaking booklet, the same textbook, and that's how it works. It's the same story. And I also want to point out that, I mean, normally, let's say when I do the refining against, personal automobile, and maybe, the loss ratio that I'm going to use is previous 3 years. So if I explain it, step by step, in order to come up with the loss ratio in terms of claims, first 3 years. That is the average accident date for accident year 2015. That's the average accident date. And this is the due premium rate will be effective January 1st, 2018. And as I already explained, this is the future average accident date. So I trend, oh, sorry. Oh, this one is, like for the future trend. And first, using the, like basic technique based on the basic technique, I want to develop any losses that occur here and to get to the ultimate. But that doesn't, it has nothing to do with the future, average accident date. It's just, to come up with the ultimate figures. And trending is from here and there, right? So overlapping doesn't work here. I already pointed out. That's going to be the year 2015, the losses. What is it? The trended and ultimate, right? And the second last year, 2016, average accident date. And I also developed the losses first up to the ultimate, and then I apply the trending here. So 42 months and 30 months. And the very last accident date, 2017. And also, I developed losses up to the ultimate, and I also applied trending from here to average accident date. So when I try to use loss ratio in rainmaking, you do two major adjustment, right? So this is how it works. Unleveling is for the premium. So let's assume, like there are several rate changes for the last 3 or 5 years. And probably most of it is like, increase the rate changes, not decreasing. So we do the rate filing, overall rate changes or specific rating variable relativity changes. And if you go back, let's say, for the last 3 years claims, you do apply the two adjustment. But here premium, if you just, if you just use whatever the historical premium, and it's like, like double jeopardy. You did, let's say, 3 or 4 times increasing, like rate filing, and then you use the premium before you increase the premium. Can you do that? It's like, like look, my premium level is so low, so that I'm losing money. So I would like to increase the premium rate. That's why you submit the rate filing and you increase the rate, and then you're using it again here 3 years ago, history, or 2 years ago. You're not allowed to do that. So the current focusing is current premium rate would be changed, right? But because of lack of data or like multi-year experience is much more comfortable or reliable or credible. So I use previous 3 years loss ratio, but premium side, don't use the premium before you increased. So that's why we are gonna, make the historical premium on the same level. That's why we said on leveling, right? Here leveled onto the current premium level. That's what it does. The premium on leveling says, like parallelogram has been used for probably a long time ago. And then extension of exposure technique when I was working in Toronto, probably year 2020, the one of the leading company, Aviva, like I observed at the time, one of the external consultant is building up the extension of exposure. So I'm not going to go into the detail. And another another issue is that let's say on the losses side, I say there are two adjustments. Let's say I didn't do anything about the trending. It means that you just stay there. You just develop the losses up to the ultimate, and that's the ultimate loss. Trending means, like future premium, due premium, effective period, and future average exit date. You trend it, right? And if I don't do that, and just, like historical premium, and I apply the on leveling. So you can see it, let's say, year 2012, that was the dollar amount, like 4 years ago. And right now, you change this one and then level up onto the current premium level. So it is like inflated. And ultimate loss and plus loss adjustment expense amount stays the same for either cases, right? And here, this loss ratio is calculated based on this one, right? Not on level premium, but on level premium is this one. So when you come up with and try to use on level loss ratio for the, let's say, whatever many years, because you increase the historical on the premium onto the current premium level, like rate making, that has been, like inflated. So in IFRS 17, if you want to use the loss ratio into the future, like cash outflow projection, if you use it, it means that this one, loss ratio trend, lower to right increasing pattern. Because, this is like denominator on the side, much smaller. Right? Oh, no, no, on level is like, like inflated one. So your denominator is bigger and loss ratio tends to be lower. So once I have a look at this type of loss ratio trend, so you fit this one using, let's say, regression. It doesn't matter linear or exponential regression, and you get the coefficient value, and it means that it's going to keep increasing over there. And that is for, like, as I already mentioned, you try to use it to change the current premium rate that says I'm losing the money. So that's why I have to increase it. But in order to do that, you use not only, like one previous year, the many years, and then you like level on the earned premium. So that's what it's used for, right? And here, IFRS 17, if you try to use the loss ratio, even though the premium level is different, it should look like this. You don't apply the on leveling against the historical, like previous. Just whatever many years back, what is the loss ratio over there? I'm not trying to do the rate making here. I'm just trying to do like, estimate the whatever the loss ratio was there. And then there is a consistency throughout, last 5 years. What is the loss ratio level? And the underwriting profit or loss based on that. And you have to come up with, unless some significant changes or environmental things that one's like, like varies, it just stays the same with a small amount of, loss or profit. And that's what you have to like make an assumption for the loss ratio. That is the problem. And there is a one misconception because loss ratio is based on earned premium. But the IFRS 17 there is no earned premium concept. So that's why in the experience adjustment, only the exception is a premium. Premium itself, like cannot be partitioned through time, even though there is a simplified approach premium, like allocation approach. But when you look at the IFRS 17, when the initial recognition and all the way down to the contract boundary. And you just, like estimate all the premiums received, and like numerator is the same thing, I mean, ultimate loss. So I would say instead of loss ratio that we have, previously used, maybe just a claim ratio. And the denominator is not earned or something, just premium received. It is always look at the, like a future. The second issue is that when you try to do the simulation, and loss ratio itself is a combination of random variables. So the numerator, denominators are random variables. Yeah, you have that like F statistics, but here we have to, let's say, forecast or predict the, let's say, loss and premium separately. Cash outflow and inflow. That is another problem, right? Combination of two different random variables, with the numerator and denominator. So probably in my own experience for the internal modeling work in Solvency 2, normally, it's like frequency and severity model is preferred. And I would say the number of claims and, like a loss distribution side, pure premium or loss cost, something like that. And this is, more appropriate. And also when we have that, like all the claim outgo, at that time, we don't do simulate in a one bucket. We just separate attritional loss and large loss, catastrophe losses, separate modeling. And once I heard about that, for the attritional loss, we use lower loss ratio, large loss, higher loss ratio. This is, like catastrophe. It was like very embarrassing. I mean, large loss modeling originally is for the, like larger losses in order to capture some of the cash flows based on the excess of loss attachment point and coverage, like width interval. So that has been developed like, almost 30 years ago to individually simulate the large losses. So that's probably one of the most sophisticated actuarial model to, let's say, predict the future large losses. CAT is a separate thing, right? So that's why loss ratio is one of the key statistics or index under, current IFRS 4. But IFRS 17, I wouldn't use it because it has, like all of those that I have already explained, and instead, pure premium or loss cost or burning cost approach based on number of claims or frequency and, loss amount ultimate. And that was like, all the like developed paid losses for each development future period. So I just want to point out, people like tends to prefer loss ratio approach in order to calculate the future cash outflow, namely claim outgo, but I don't think it's comply with the standard itself and, all the other like actuarial model that has been already developed for over 20 years. So I just give you a, like very good hint. And especially for the claim outgo, you can have a look at the Catholic Actuarial Society exam part 7. It'll change to all the stochastic reserving, which is going to cover the liability for incurred claims. And when I show you the actuarial modeling to like the future claims, that is another new idea. But like all the LIC, liability for incurred claims, you can get a good reference from all those papers in exam 7. So I just want to point out the loss ratio. Please, try to avoid using it. Otherwise, you cannot satisfy all the requirements in the IFRS 17 standards. Okay, thank you very much. And I'll come back to you with another video.